Well, as you all know, the GOP lost control of the House of Representatives in the big election on Tuesday, which is a disappointment. But for me, the real disappointment is when the GOP held the House of Representatives. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is not your election wrap-up. This is your last 2 years of Republican control of the House wrap-up, and specifically Paul Ryan, who's just, to me anyway, a really interesting figure. He's the guy who was such the conservative policy wonk that in 2012, Mitt Romney chose him as his vice president to nail down Romney's conservative bona fides. But as House Speaker, Ryan didn't seem to get a whole lot done. Or maybe he did. Scott, you were talking in the pre-show that Ryan did actually get quite a bit done. But, there was the failure of the Obamacare repeal. The Ryan bill was just not very good. We had some really high hopes on deregulation that never quite materialized the way we thought. How do you rate him as a speaker now that he's given up the gavel?
I don't think that Paul Ryan had the natural political gifts to be a House Speaker, and I think he should have known that up front. And I don't say that as a criticism. In fact, if anything, it's I'm sort of damning him with faint praise.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of, at least I don't perceive that he's the kind of conniver and deal maker and, the kind of guy who shakes your hand with two of his hands. I don't think he's that kind of guy. And so, I think it was kind of a mission of mercy because he thought what he got appointed at was chief policy wonk of the House of Representatives, that would certainly elevate some of his great ideas when it came to fiscal and budgetary matters. That said, I'm not going to be too harsh with Paul Ryan. I mean, any House of Representatives that passes a major tax cut that was like squirting
that was a big achievement. Yeah.
Yes, that what is that stuff called? You squirt on the barbecue coals, the accelerant that you put on
it.
Yes. You spray that kind of stuff on the economy. And thank goodness for House Speaker Paul Ryan during that period of time, because even though Democrats are now saying that the great success of Democrats taking back control of the House is not that they're going to be able to get anything done with the Senate still in the control of the Republicans and the White House still in control of Donald Trump, but it's the fact that they've put the brakes on this runaway train of the Republican agenda. They haven't...
Oh, that's the first true thing I've heard about them.
Well, yes and no. They haven't actually put the brakes on. They've actually locked the accelerator down.
That's right.
And
that's
so,
right.
So that means that they're not going to be able to take that accelerator off, and they've managed. All they can do is sort of conduct a sniping kind of warfare where they try to trip up the Republicans and go after President Trump on a personal level. So anyway, I would say between that, a successful effort on the part of the House to actually pass a repeal of Obamacare, whatever you think of the particulars of the legislation, it's nice to see a bill sent over to the Senate, even if it loses by one vote and never gets the president's signature. And so yes, sorry, and may he rest in peace. But I think if he did nothing else but pass the tax cut, I would say that House Speaker Paul Ryan's term was a successful one, and I will boldly fight against anybody who refers to him as Paul Ryan-o.
No. No, he's a solid conservative. He just lacked the political skills. And Scott, you mentioned the arm twisting. I always think of LBJ and the way he ran the Senate, just cramming through bill after bill because he knew where all the bodies were buried. But most importantly, he had, Bill, something that we've since gotten rid of in the last few years, and that is congressional earmarks, which is, is sending some of the bacon, some of the pork back home. And a powerful speaker gets to use the carrot and the stick on his Congress critters to whip them into line, to get them behind legislation. But the speaker doesn't have that anymore, Bill. We got rid of earmarks in what I thought was a really noble attempt at cleaning up Congress. But the result is this neutered speakership. Did we make a mistake on that one?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. Earmarks are just plain evil. We remember back when we all started this game in the blog days, and there was Pork Busters, remember?
Oh, yeah.
And Sarah Palin basically became governor by running against this whole idea of pork, and getting rid of earmarks and pork is well worth losing the House for one cycle on. It is It is a catastrophe.
But what happens when we get it back?
It's vote buy-in.
And we still don't have the arm twisting ability.
Well, I can't look into the future here. I think the main point that I would agree with with Scott on this is not that Paul Ryan wasn't conservative enough. He wasn't ruthless enough. He's just too good a guy. Yeah. And I really think I can say that with confidence. And I'm not letting him off the hook here, because his job as Speaker of the House is not to be a good guy. His job as Speaker of the House is to shake hands with both hands and then with a third hand put a knife in somebody's kidney. That's his job. And you don't have to like it, but that's what we're dealing with. The Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich had this. I mean, Newt Gingrich was, I think, probably the best speaker I ever saw. And the Speaker of the House has to have an attitude that it can't be like, well, we're gonna come up with some deals and so on, and we're gonna work here, we're gonna compromise there. The Speaker of the House has to be George Patton. He's gonna be, we're gonna grab him by the nose and we're gonna kick him in the ass. We're gonna kick the living hell out of him all the time, and we're gonna go through them like crap through a goose. That's what you need in a speaker, especially a wartime speaker, and that's what we didn't get with Ryan. But to the larger issue of the postmortem on the Republican majority in that particular Congress, in the House of Representatives, they let us down so badly that I don't see any negative consequences of this election. I really don't. Yep. You could. I think what disappeared last night was the wall. I think the wall just disappeared last night. Yeah. But I didn't see the wall getting built either. It's not like they're going to stop the cranes. Yeah. They had 2 years to get this thing going. It didn't happen, which told me it was not going to happen. And now we know what we're up against. A Republican Congress that doesn't vote Republican is no worse off for us than a Democratic House. Okay, the Senate is court appointees, and that is the main outcome of last night. And as Scott said, the throttle, they did not stop Donald Trump. They stopped the acceleration. The throttle is wide open at 120 miles an hour. Trains zooming along. We won't be able to go any faster, but we're not slowing down either, because they're not going to get legislation passed to raise taxes. Just physically impossible. And Donald Trump is going to be president until 2020, and Brett Kavanaugh is going to sit on the Supreme Court until 2020, and I suspect by that time it's a moot point. So, yeah, I mean, the big failure of that Congress was the failure to pass Obamacare, and I don't really blame Ryan for that. You know what I think about with Ryan and the Obamacare thing? John McCain was responsible. John McCain's personality was responsible for the failure to repeal Obamacare. I think his individual character flaws is what cost us that important, enormous victory. And so my view on this is that Ryan should have had more votes lined up. But I kind of come back to being in a situation that I'm in when I watch a football team that I like in a very, very, very big rivalry lose a game because of one bad call. And there's no question it was a bad call. That was an incomplete pass that you called a touchdown. There's no question about it. We deserve to win that. But when you are in a situation like that, you have to say, look, this is how football is played. And if you're going to lose by one play, then you really didn't win this fight, You've got to win a football game by enough of a margin so that bad calls, when they happen, don't cost you the victory. And you could say it was a victory, and on some academic level it was. But if your entire football game came down to one bad call that you lost, then I don't think you get to say that we were robbed.
Yeah.
This is the game. There's a margin of error, and you've got to beat that margin of error.
I've been writing for almost 2 years now at Independent, since Donald Trump was sworn in January 2017, that the GOP Congress needs to legislate like there's no tomorrow, because there just might not be one. And that was, I thought, really solid advice. I wish they'd listen. I got to tell you, Instapundit readers in the comments raked me over the coals on this for almost 2 years. Oh, we'll never lose the House here. We've got Trump and all that. But the thing is, every election is its own little world, and midterms are always tough for the party in power. And I truly believe that if the GOP, and specifically Paul Ryan, had taken my advice, then we might have looked at a different result in the congressional races last night. That might not have been a blue trickle. It might have been a real red wall where the GOP held on or maybe even slightly increased its majority. You never know. That said, Paul Ryan was probably not that guy. He just doesn't have the fire in the belly. But the thing of it is, and this is the real shame as I look back, maybe it was unfair of me to say that because there wasn't anybody else. Paul Ryan was it. That was the best the GOP House had to offer when they made him Speaker a few years ago, and he was replacing John Boehner, who was nobody's idea of a prize speaker, right? So there's clearly something missing in the modern Republican Party, something we had with Newt Gingrich, just that willingness to fight, to go to the mattresses, to pass legislation, to promote conservative causes, and there's something missing in the GOP these days. We've got it in the White House. God knows we've got that fighting spirit in the White House right now. We got a little of it in the Senate with Mitch McConnell, who has become this judicial consent machine over there. Nobody saw that one coming. But over in the House, man, you guys got to step up. You guys got to mean it. I want to find that guy with that third arm and that shiv. And that is your right angle on that. Brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like this kind of programming, please click on over. Become one of our citizen producers because we would certainly love to have you on board. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.